2, 1, and we are recording with Dr. Mike Ford. Man, you've got a podcaster voice. You've got a better voice than I do. You've got a solid broadcasting voice. It's
not doctor though. It's just Mike Ford. We're good with that.
When in doubt, I have my own rule. It's like Tommy's
Yeah.
law of podcasting. When in doubt, address guests and potential guests as doctor, because no one will ever be upset at being called doctor if they're not. And I can't imagine a doctor ever being necessarily all right with not being called doctor. So
right.
it's my I
that's
cover
a good
my
rule.
Yeah, I cover my
That's a good rule.
I'll start with everyone. I'll be like, Dr. So and so, and they'll be like, dude, I'm a gym teacher. And I'll be like, all right, were you upset? No, noted. All it takes is one wrong, right? I'm going to hit some physicist or guy who's going to be like, it's Dr. Smith. And I'm going to be like, shit. But please introduce yourself, man.
Tommy, yes, my name is Mike Ford. I'm a 36-year veteran of the nuclear industry. I have my experience basically includes the nuclear fuel cycle, nuclear research, nuclear weapons. I've spent 16 years at the Pantex plant in Amarillo, Texas, the United States Pantex plant in Amarillo, Texas, about 12 years ago. And that's the nuclear weapons facility for the United States of America. I was a 14-year governor-appointed state official in the state of Texas under Governors Bush and Perry. I was the member and chairman of the Texas Radiation Advisory Board for 12 years, combined service there. And then for 3 years, I was the inaugural chair of a Texas Interstate Compact with another state on the topic of nuclear waste. I'm also the co-founder of a grassroots organization along with about 10 other people. It's called Pray for Freedom. It's spelled PRA, the number 4 freedom, and that's prayforfreedom.org. It's Panhandle Rights Advocates for Freedom, and that's in the panhandle of the great state of Texas. And we're devoted to protecting and restoring constitutional rights and individual liberties for our citizens.
How old are you?
I'll be 58 on Monday, actually.
Really?
This coming Monday. Yep.
Well, whatever you're doing, man, keep at it. I was like, wait, what? That happened. I had on the author Gerald Posner, and he was talking, and he was like, yeah, me and my wife celebrating our 60th, and I was like maybe I just have no perception of age, but that was another guy, but I was like, wait, what? So yeah, I had speaking of more nuclear stuff, I had on a Marine named John Halderman last Monday, a week ago today, 87 years old, and was doing security at the Castle Bravo shot in 1952.
Oh wow! Oh my goodness! Yeah.
It was I saw him because I interviewed Rhodes 2 Fridays ago, and that evening I went back. I love Richard Rhodes, so I went back down a whole rabbit hole, and I found a video of Castle Bravo, and I was like, I just saw the name mentioned. I was like, I'll try to find this guy. What are the chances? I found him.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that was in the Bikini Atolls, right?
I think so. That's the one that was supposed to be 7 megatons and was 15.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah. And he talked. It's crazy, man. He was saying that all the other ships, they're right, the bow faces it so it can break the waves, and he said theirs was sideways.
Yeah.
And he always thought it was an accident, but later found out that none of their names were on the manifest of that ship, and he thinks that they were testing radiation effects on them.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is just some dark shit.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of really dark period during that period of time that happened to not only our members of the military, but downwinders and in Utah and Nevada and people in the communities in rural communities in Tennessee and Kentucky and the Muskegee experiment there. That's just kind of the tip of the iceberg for radiation effects research that was done on Americans for decades.
Yeah.
So in my profession, there was some unfortunate benefit, I guess it could be the best way to put that, in terms of radiation effects research and knowing exactly where materials go when they go into the human body and what happens to it. what happens at varying doses. But yeah, a lot of people, you could probably say, were sacrificed in the process of that, getting that research data.
Yeah, wasn't it a strontium 90 that would always show up in like milk or something, like
Uh-huh.
all around Nevada? Yeah, and I think I think Buster Jangle, it was like a it was like a 5 kiloton like airburst or something, but
Mm-hmm.
it was
Mm-hmm.
that to me that one was one of the creepiest ones because like not only were they testing radiation, but they were also testing like psychologically, like would troops walk towards a mushroom cloud if we were to use a tactical nuke, right? And
Uh-huh.
it's
Uh-huh.
not just one of like, the world ender thermonuclear, but just rather like a tiny, kind of firecracker nuke. And that was one of the weird things is like, would troops walk towards like a 20,000 foot, wall of smoke? And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
sacrificed, I think is really the only word for it.
Yeah, and we had those were in the arsenal. I mean, those they've been retired, but they were in the arsenal. It's called an AFAP, artillery
Mm-hmm.
fired atomic projectile.
Atomic
Yeah,
Annie.
yeah, it comes right out of a howitzer. And those are typically uh, some of them were neutron bombs, and so the neutron bomb it doesn't basically contaminate the battlefield like a normal fission bomb would. So it's just meant to kill as opposed to contaminate. But yeah, the AFAPs were definitely a thing, and they were studied, and we had our troops go through those contaminated battlefields, and then they were followed for years afterward in terms of their cancer and death, disease, all the things that happened to them.
Yeah, and then there's what was it, the Davy Crockett, that little shoulder launch, basically
Yep.
suicide. And then what was the I think it was the Genie missiles. They were an only in the way that only the Cold War can produce. I mean, you get when I laugh about it, I'm not, it's in the way that you only can kind of accept tragedy. Sometimes you have to laugh at it, but like the unguided air-to-air nuclear missiles for like taking out whole swaths of bombers. I think they're the
Yeah.
genies, right? I think zero
Yeah.
point 0.1 kilotons.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, man. It's well, on the note of talking about sacrifices made and then kept quiet for 70 years and denied at the time, and by the time we realize it's happening, everyone responsible for it's dead. Let's now get into, well, what's going on right now. And I don't necessarily feel that Pfizer and Moderna have believe it or not, I don't get the warm and fuzzies from them. It's just a personal
You shouldn't.
hunch. Yeah, personal
You should
hunch.
not.
I know it's a little odd, but I just look at the big something about them. They don't find, ExxonMobil doesn't make me feel like a loved member of a community. But so Dr. McCullough put us in touch and talking about, well, specifically what you've seen with the vax mandates, correct?
Correct. Uh-huh.
Now, what all have you seen? I don't want to set you up for anything. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm here to listen to you. What all have you seen of noted importance?
Well, we've in the community that I live in, Amarillo, Texas, just outside the community is the country's one and only facility where the nuclear weapons are maintained, retired, modified. They come in from the military, and they have their overhauls done, modifications done, what have you. They may be pulled out of the stockpile. They maybe go for further testing and what have you, and then they're sent back out to any of the number of depots to go on the boomers, the subs, or to be for the bombers or for the missile silos in the United States. And so those weapons are maintained at the Pantex plant in Amarillo, Texas, and it's been doing that for basically 3/4 of a century. And typically, you don't hear that. Most people have never heard of the Pantex plant
I have.
in the United States, and that's the place where the big stick, the pointy end of the big stick that our diplomats carry, walk softly but carry the big stick. That's the pointy end of that stick is sharpened by the folks in the Pantex plant, and that allows our diplomats to go around the world to be backed up by a operable nuclear deterrent, and to be assured that there's something to back up their speech wherever they're going, whether or not that they want to leverage that at all times. And also lets our enemies know that our boomers have a specific and demonstrable threat associated with them as well, should they decide to do something preemptively to the United States. So this whole premise of what we call mutually assured destruction and our nuclear weapon deterrent, that's something that's been maintained for many people. Some people may not agree with it, but for good or for ill, it's been maintained by the good folks, the Patriots, at the Pantex plant just outside of Amarillo, Texas, as I said, for the better part of 3/4 of a century. And in that location, as you can imagine, where they intentionally wrap high explosives around plutonium, there is a high degree of control over what happens in those workspaces. And there's something called a hazard analysis or any change that may occur in those workplaces, whether it's a change in the procedure, a change in the materials, or change in anything in the environment that comes into that environment that's controlled. It goes through a screening process called an unreviewed safety question. And so if there's a change in a couple of words in the procedure, that those changes go through a rigorous screening process to evaluate for any unintended consequences. If there are new nuts or bolts used on the weapons themselves or fasteners of any kind, those are screened through what is called a suspect fastener program, and then they may be brought on, later on under rigorous review. If there's any type of change in the materials, the cleaning solvents, anything that's used to, be removing high explosives and removing high explosive residue from weapon parts, all those things are extremely heavily scrutinized. It may take months for changes like that to be approved. They have to go through varying levels of approval. They have to go from the local area out to the design laboratory. The design laboratories are Los Alamos National Laboratory, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and Sandia National Laboratory. They cover different weapon systems, and they also cover different elements of the weapon systems themselves. And so, as I said, it's just a very, very highly controlled environment where something what's defined as a hazard could be a material that's introduced into an environment that may cause or has the potential to cause, as it's defined in the nuclear safety rules in the federal regulations, has the potential to cause injury, illness, or death. And so these vaccines will cover all three. I mean, they will cause injury, they will cause illness, and they in many cases, in 17,000 cases according to VAERS, they will cause death. And so none of these hazards in the terms of the Pfizer product, the Moderna product, or the J&J product have been evaluated. And that's the perspective that I'm coming from. Is that this is happening at Pantex, and this is indeed happening at every nuclear facility across the country that operates under the same rules, that nuclear safety requirements that require these hazard analyses are not being done. And so if you add on top of that, we have people who are highly qualified, highly educated, have some of the highest security clearances you can get, and been highly vetted by the federal government. They have to pass rigorous psychological profiles. They have to pass rigorous fitness for duty requirements that says, you have to abstain from alcohol for 8 hours. You're subject to, before you come to work, you are subject to drug testing, polygraphs, alcohol and breath alcohol testing on a random basis, highly scrutinized, on affecting what you can do away from the facility and what you can do in the facility, obviously. But again, these things that may affect a person, it may cause brain fog, it may affect their heart, may affect their lungs, may give them cause them to pass out or die, give them a certain propensity to contract a disease, certainly spread COVID with asymptomatically. None of that's being evaluated or has been evaluated. And so that's really the perspective I'm coming from as I raise this concern, is these people are being, number one, really at the kind of the point of loss of their job, being forced to take these vaccines when they would prefer not to. In the state of Texas, we have Governor Abbott's executive order, which has the force of law, which says basically any entity that's requiring these mandates will observe legitimate and basically any expression of conscience as an exemption, religious, firmly held religious belief, a medical exemption, and including a natural immunity conferred by recovery from the illness itself.
It's it makes me think of aren't a lot of F-22 pilots reportedly not taking it? And I've had on one of them a B-2 Spirit pilot. I mean, you got to imagine these guys. I mean, F-22s are one thing. I mean, B-2 Spirits, that's the King Daddy, right? I mean, that's a $2 billion nuclear weapons platform.
Yes.
You got to imagine that those guys are probably, I would imagine, a little rigorous with their safety checks. You know, I am rigorous with my podcast. I make sure I sleep for 8 hours. I make sure I do some cardio, make sure I lift some weights. I take a cold shower and I meditate. That's what I do before my podcast. Make sure I'm hydrated.
Like a fantastic prescription.
Yeah. And that's my own personal, just for my podcast. Now imagine that it's not my podcast where I'm screaming at a camera and getting kicked off YouTube, but rather imagine I'm in the cockpit of a $2 billion stealth bomber going over denied territories with technology that we would rather not fall into. We would rather chop our balls off than have fall into the enemy hands.
Exactly. Yes.
You'd think that maybe they're looking at a needle, they're going, and by the way, probably physically fit guys, and they're going, what? No. I mean, in the same way that if I was like, hey man, I just got these uppers from a gas station, they'd go, no. Or if I was like, you want to drink this old whiskey? They'd go, no. Imagine if I come at them with a syringe and go, look, there's been 17,129 deaths. There's been 23,000 people permanently disabled and 2,100 miscarriages. But save your grandma. Well, one, I mean, these guys pilot nuclear bombers. I'm not sure saving grandma is necessarily in their bargaining chips. Like, they're okay with that, which I'm okay with too. But yeah, you think that, or nuclear facilities where they check every little thing and they have, right? I mean, isn't the always never rule? They always have to work and they can never fail. I mean, the whole
basically,
the whole broken arrow system. Or not broken arrow system. What word am I looking for? Command and Control by Eric Schlosser. He goes into that, or David Stumpf. He's an ICBM historian. I had him on here a couple of times. Even something as little as like what they would use to clean the Titan II. I think they were using like Freon, and they didn't realize that it was like how heavy it was, and it was like killing the guys even in their hazmat suits. The point of all of this schizophrenic ranting is there's a lot of checks and balances for all of these things because you're dealing with world-ending nuclear weapons, not just because they're multi-megatons, but because they start going off, every other country start going off. There's a reason why we are so hyper secure about these, and
right. In the nuclear weapons environment where they're basically taken apart, disassembled, you have three people. It's what we call a reader, worker, doer. So you have someone basically reading the procedure step by step. No, you don't go past the second step. You don't read two steps in a row. You read it. The person does the task that the procedure calls for. The other person will step in to check that they did the right task. And then that step in the procedure, there's an ink stamp that is applied to the procedure, and these procedures actually travel with anything done to a nuclear weapon in that facility travels with the weapon for its entire life.
Yeah.
So everything that's done to it is any physical manipulation of that weapon is stamped off. There's three people that have observed it. And so all three people could be injected with this material that could cause injury, illness, or death, could cause brain fog, what have you. I mean, bad decisions. But it's an unanalyzed hazard that's been introduced in these facilities. And then so there's that hazard. And then you have the moral hazard that happens is, well, I'm vaccinated. You haven't taken one for the team. You're a bad person. And so this schism, mm-hmm. where trust is critical in these facilities has occurred, where one worker or more workers are being set against other workers from this moral hazard kind of thing. You're not taking one for the team or what have you. And so, like, I survived. Now it's your turn to spin the chamber and pull the trigger and see if you do. And so it's really just a massive erosion of trust between in areas where trust is the most sought after characteristic of the work environment and the most important characteristic of a work environment. And this happens, it's a thing called nuclear safety culture. And so nuclear safety culture has become a thing because of issues like 3 Mile Island, like Chernobyl, like Fukushima, these nuclear disasters where we've lost, for whatever reason, we've lost the rigor of the operation, and the failure has occurred, and it has not only caused lack of trust in the operators, but the lack of trust in the nuclear industry as well. So we have a lot of eyes turning back to nuclear in this country because of the need for a reliable base load and a reliable power supply and so on and so forth. And so this nuclear safety culture was first actually born right after, 3 months after the 3 Mile Island via the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations. It's called INPO. And the Carter administration formed that. And their job was basically to re-inculcate a culture of conservative decision-making, of discipline, and of trust in these operations where people have each other's back and they know that everyone is watching out for each other. Now, I can't imagine what is happening. Actually, I can't imagine. I've heard what is happening in these organizations, these operations that are so heavily reliant on nuclear safety culture to ensure that what they are doing is the right thing. It's been evaluated properly. It's gone through all the checks, and only after then do they proceed and push forward with any change in their operations.
Now, what is what is realistically going to happen? Because I mean, well, actually, you kind of do see where it feels like there are some people that, right, all the pilots of Southwest just refusing to get it, and then them having to cancel because of weather. But I mean, those are guys who, it's kind of, it's one thing, and not to disparage on anyone, but it's one thing you work at your whatever 9 to 5 cubicle job and you get the vaccine, and then Bill got it and he drops dead, but we'll probably be fine. Again, you kind of have this different breed of people. Again, like a pilot. I mean, that's someone that I remember my buddy's dad in high school was a surgeon, and a pediatric surgeon. And it was just like when, us little shitheads would be there on a weekend or something, sneaking beer into the basement or whatever. And you knew when his dad was on call, because his dad would be, up all night and like ready to go. And it would like, he would time like, when he drank coffee, because if you drink it at this time, he knew like his hands would be shaky for this long after. And it was, no alcohol this weekend because all next week I'm on. Just these little things where it's like there's a guy that's responsible for one, not to belittle it, but one surgery at a time. I can only imagine it's the same with pilots of a 740 or any plane where you have other souls on board. And even if there's no one on board, you have people under you and you're in a fuselage filled with fuel. You can kind of see where the buck stops, to where Bob at, Equifax goes, yeah, I'll get it, and then he drops dead or whatever. And it was a rare side effect. But you have these pilots who are like, no. Like, we're not fudging this. Like, like Chernobyl, you didn't see it. And it's like, no, it's not. We can't just, you can lie about a lot of stuff. You can fudge the numbers. The Federal Reserve does a bunch of black magic and puppetry, but like, there are some things where like, you can't fake it. Is it 3.6 Roentgen or is it not? Like, what is it? Right. Like, we can't, we can call gravity racist, but the reality is this camera cover is falling at 9.81 meters per second. It's just what it is. So these pilots, right? And I think it's a perfect example, is you're seeing these guys that are going, stop all the stuff. I don't care if the newsman said it's safe and effective and it's, Anthony Fauci is Santa Claus or whatever the hell they're saying. I'm piloting a 4-engine aircraft with 300 souls full of jet fuel at 0.9 Mach over LA. I'm not taking this thing, right? I mean, don't the pilots, this isn't even military. Don't they have, like, isn't there, I think it's with Boeing, or not Boeing, but that's Delta, where like they have to eat their lunch or whatever their meal is at like separate times in case the first one realizes that there's like food poisoning, just like old food.
Yeah, they do.
And that's just for everyday flights for morons like me. Like, so you kind of see where these walls are hit with these F-22 pilots that are like, no. I don't care if Stephen Colbert is out there, dancing and saying take it. Like, I'm flying this weapon of this weapon system. You're seeing the same thing at which, kind of discrediting myself because I thought I knew a lot about nuclear weapons. I'd never heard of Pantex. I've interviewed guys from Sandia. I think I had one on from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, but never have heard of Pantex. But the point is you're seeing where they're like, no. I don't care what the little YouTube disclaimer says that it's safe and effective. No, I'm wrapping plutonium cores with spherical explosives. Like,
Yep.
I'm not taking this thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, if you go back to the example of the F-22 pilots, I mean, just think about the investment in the certification, training, selection, education that the United States has made into these individuals, and so they are vested with this amazing stable cadre of strengths and talents and not, I mean, there's no way on God's green earth we're going to replace those guys, just like that. I mean, it's just and the same thing happens, to a lesser degree or to a different degree at Pantex, where you have highly skilled, trained, vetted people who have, when you step into a classified environment, you cross various thresholds where, okay, you're allowed to know this, and then you're allowed to know that, and then the next phase, you're allowed to know this. Okay, you've proven yourself, so we can let you into this thing. So a complete picture of what happens at that facility begins to emerge. And so that takes years. That literally takes years in order to get to that point. And so I know for a fact, and the people who are the leaders out at Pantex, who are running the company, who are the leaders of the company, I know these people. They're friends, neighbors. I go to church with them. They are good, and I just want to say this for the record: they are good people. They're my friends.
Sure,
I've known these people for decades, and I know the companies. Have known for the companies for data. These are proud companies who would serve the national security interests of the nation for decades, a half a century or more. And so, my call to them is, please remember who you are and what's going on out there, and just to start to think about, the ramifications. But part of the problem is, and this is the huge part of the problem, is what I call the balkanization of science. And so if you do not ascribe to the tenets of the Church of Vaccinology, then your science is not acknowledged. And so it's not even allowed in the conversation.
The Branch Covidians.
Yeah, basically. And you saw what happened to them. So what happens here is we had a group with our Pray for Freedom organization. We actually invited Dr. McCullough to Amarillo to come speak to a group of physicians, 80 physicians. It was in a no cameras, no media, closed door. We're going to have this conversation, and conversations that these physicians had not been able to have for 2 years or more regarding everything that's going on. And their brains were just lit on fire, just hearing the things that they were hearing. But it was very nice, and I have to compliment the individuals who came there, who were in the minority, but they were actually majority positions within the community, who had an all differing view. And these individuals showed up knowing what was on the line for them, and they were still willing to have that conversation and still willing to have that debate. And I'm not going to go into it, the particulars, because we assured them that what was going to be said in there was going to stay in there.
Sure.
But those physicians were finally able to have a conversation and be told things, information, peer-reviewed journal articles, peer-reviewed data results, and things they had not been exposed to for a couple of years that did not adhere to the tenets of the Church of Vaccinology. And so, again, this is where we are in serious danger in this country, in that when we balkanize science and we say we cannot consider this fact because this does not come from our church, we can only hear this fact because this fact comes from our church. And so, that's in the name of religion, terrible things have happened because of that.
Yeah.
And so if we take in this unfortunate religion of science, trust the science is settled. Those are some of the most ignorant statements that have ever been uttered on the face of the earth.
The most antithetical to science that have ever been stated.
Yeah. Trust the science. Basically the science is a process that you follow to get to the truth. It's a revelation of the truth, you hope, but it's also requires skepticism. It requires, pressing back and saying, no, I don't think I agree with that. And you better go fix your argument, or you better tighten up your arguments. And I think you've missed a few things in those assumptions. And
peer review.
I have a different view. And so that's what we had in that doctor's meeting. It was kind of a little bit of a microcosm of what was, we would hope actually start to occur in the community. And I think there's a possibility there. But people need to be able to hear differing views, differing professional opinions outside of the medical hierarchy. That and the medical hierarchy was very, I shouldn't say disappointed, mad, upset, but maybe they were. That this conversation was taking place in a private organization, Pray for Freedom, put this thing on and invited the doctors and say, please come do this. They wanted us to, we needed to go through the proper medical authorities and have all these people vetted and make sure that they could be speaking and so on and so forth. And you may have heard that we've been trying to censor Dr. McCullough for the last 2 years. So we sure didn't want to hear from him or him in our community. So despite all their efforts, everybody got together, and it was very nice. And so that's a template that needs to be replicated in science and engineering organizations that do critical high hazard work, like nuclear weapons, like flying F-22s, like flying B-2s loaded with nuclear weapons, like nuclear power plants and those types of things. And so, I've appealed to my brothers and sisters in the nuclear industry, the chief nuclear officers at the nuclear power facilities, to please consider what is happening in your facilities and how we are absolutely destroying the trust that is so critical in these organizations.
You kind of need you got to bring the doctors into a skiff and be like, all right, speak freely, right? It's like, sometimes I'll have on guests and, they'll be and I'll be like, hey, we're not recording yet. And they'll be like, okay. And they'll start telling you stuff. And you're like, man, that's how far this culture's come, where it's like, people will preface it by I just want to say that I'm pro science. And I'm like, dude, I got a booster shot for tetanus last week. Yeah, I got into medical school. I got into pharmacy school. I published research in aquatic toxicology. I get science. The idea of trust the science is the most antithetical statement to science ever. Science is like that metal ball at the center of I'm just making this up as I go, of any tree in the world, any tree of bullshit. Science is the metal ball at the center. And science is the thing that you can take like a flamethrower to the tree. Everything else burns off until you get that polished center, right? You dissolve the material down until you get the element. This is lithium. Whatever.
It's beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful analogy.
That's what science is. Science doesn't need to be protected. No one needed to. I always use this analogy. If I just went out and started saying the gravity was 10 meters per second squared on YouTube, there would be no need to put little labels on there and say fact checkers say that this is false. It's actually, you don't need to, because if you believe me, hey, go figure it out. I'm on the second floor of an apartment. Go walk right off the porch, buddy. And after you get back from the hospital, maybe look at the camera and look at the frames and the stopwatch and go, well, I'll be damned. That was 9.81 meters per second square. Exactly. It doesn't need to be protected. You don't need to protect science. It's right. So the idea of it's settled. If it was settled, just let it go out on. If you have this much money, Pfizer, you go out there on TV, you buy a 30-minute ad during the middle of the Super Bowl, and you go, here's our peer-reviewed research from our mRNA vaccine, and here's ivermectin. You see how ineffective ivermectin is, and then you red pill everyone. You go, oh, I guess so. That's science. Science is not banning everyone like a game of goddamn communist whack-a-mole. Get rid of him. 10 out of 10 scientists agree the vaccine is safe and effective. Well, actually, the guy that invented it said it's not. Remove him. 10 out of 10
Yeah.
say it's effective. And it's like, well,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
it's the no true Scotsman thing, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
work that way. So we see that happening. And I think what we're going to is and this is my kind of silver lining, is like, you look at something like JFK, like there's probably only a handful of people that really know. I tend to think it was I don't know if it's the CIA or the KGB. I don't think it was just old boy Lee Harvey. Maybe it was. Who knows?
Well, if you're a fan of science, it's the what the p value on that one would be pretty high, right?
Well, yeah, and don't there's been a
It's
there's been a single fruit fly flying around my apartment for like the last 4 episodes, and I look like a psychopath because people will be talking and my eyes will just start tracking, and they're like, this kid's finally losing it. But point is whatever it is, right? To choose any conspiracy you want, RFK or JFK or
9/11, yeah,
9/11, who at Pearl Harbor, you at the Maine, whatever.
Exactly.
Just take it with a political thing, right? That is something where you actually can cover up the truth, because it's not a defined constant like gravity or the nuclear force. It's who knew this? Was it written down on paper? Did we tie up all the loose ends? You shoot them all in the back of the head, and then it's just two guys and they take it to their grave. You actually can squash a secret. Like, you really can. I mean,
oh yeah.
Now with a surveillance system of satellites, who knows, maybe they're recording the whole world and you could actually go in but go back and, did Hitler do this or that? You don't know. You could actually squash, like, some people, they get away with affairs. They just do. Now, with something like, did we land on the moon? Those people might all be dead, but eventually you could just, with all technology, from cell phones to commercial air, to flight, to electricity, to running water, eventually going to the moon will also be within all of our reach, just no different than me getting in a car. You'll be able to go up and see the footprints, or not.
Yeah, see the footprints, or see the alien base on the dark side of the moon, or something along those lines.
Don't play with my heart. Do not play with my heart. That's probably the coolest thing about interviewing Charlie Duke was I talked to a guy that walked on the moon. The worst thing about interviewing Charlie Duke is it destroyed my belief that there was an alien base on the dark side of the moon. But,
oh darn.
I know, right? It's double-edged sword. But that's something where you can go eventually to and just see what's there, right? So that's eventually, it doesn't matter how strong the church's grip on the world is. Eventually, science progresses enough to you can go, let's get a hot air balloon and a GoPro, bring it up.
Right.
It looks curved. Well,
yeah,
there it is.
There's a slight curvature going on there. Yeah.
So that is my hope with this, is where, as opposed to a political conspiracy, where sometimes they do go away forever. The file gets burned at Langley, whatever. With science, it does eventually come through. There will be eventual revelations. And that is my hope with these vaccine mandates, with the VAERS systems, with whistleblowers. Right now, we're seeing a bunch of little needle holes in the dam. Eventually, it comes because it's our like the rate at which this would change and no longer become the static background of what we're analyzing is on the timeline of billions of years. So like our biological systems, how our bodies react to things, it will come out, no different than, 9 out of 10 doctors agree, lucky strikes, for a good or, the pregnant woman with the drink, my baby's fine. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Thalidomide, or even just 15 years ago, like Oxycontin, safe and not addictive. And it's like,
it's the interesting thing with Oxycontin was the breakthrough pain. I don't know if you've seen the latest Hulu Dope Sick episode on there, but the parallel, it's a fantastic parallel. They had like breakthrough infections. They had the problem they had was breakthrough pain, and what was their response? Double the dose. If you have breakthrough pain, you should double the dose. So they started off with a 10 milligram, they went to a 40, and then they went to an 80, and I think they ended up with a 120 milligram. But yeah, double the dose. That's the way you do it. So what do we do with breakthrough infections? Double the dose, a third booster, a fourth booster, a fifth, double the dose. So it's a great parallel to the pharmaceutical industry has done the same, and the FDA they only have one template, and they only have basically one hammer looking for a nail. It's just like, booster, vaccine, it's just, but it's all about this fantastic just avalanche of money that happens. You hit the lottery when you get a vaccine approved in the United States, and for a childhood vaccine, you have access to a brand new customer class of 70 million children. And then for adults, my God, an adult vaccine or adult and child vaccine, you've got 300 million recipients for a liability-free product.
Just in this country.
It's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
Just in this country, and that's
just in this country.
Yeah. That's one thing I've kind of pointed to is like normally, right, you got to do like a 3 or 4 phase clinical trial with the FDA. It costs you what, like $1 to $2 billion in roughly 15 years, and you don't even know if your drug's going to make it to market. So there's a lot of risk. And I'm not trying to be some Marxist scum screaming about corporations are bad. Corporations are the reason why we're having this discussion right now with my Sony camera, my Apple Mac, my Apple iMac, and my Shure microphone. Right, that's why we're doing this. But love them. However, so let's look at what it is, right? Because I had to learn all about this shit when I had to go to medical school interviews, was learn all this, right? So there's a 3-phase clinical trial, cost you, let's just keep it even, cost $1 billion, 15 years. All right. If you could manipulate any of those things to reduce your costs, I mean, what do we know corporations do? Can we outsource jobs to China or Vietnam? Go for it. Child labor in South Africa, and we can mine cobalt. Well, I need those for my batteries. Man, I can really cut that. That's just not taking a stance on any. I mean, that's bad, but I'm not taking a stance on any of it. Let's just look at it with a sober examination of what it is. Profit margins, shareholders, you have an obligation. That's your corporate charter. That's just what it is. There's no opinion on it. Gravity is 9.81 meters per second squared. I have no opinion on it. It is. So let's look at 3-phase clinical trial, $1 billion, 15 years. Okay. You're a corporation. You're a publicly held corporation with a and if you're not, you want to go public. Biggest bottom line at the end of each quarter. Okay. What if I could do this 15-year trial and it's not going to cost you $1 billion? What if it was free? Well, that's a game changer. We're in a competitive, cutthroat market. Yeah. Okay. What if it didn't have
paid to do it?
What if not only is it free, what if you're paid to do it? Okay. And hey, no risk, guaranteed come to market. All right. Now you're jerking me off. What are you doing? Don't blue ball me. Not only that, you are safe from all legal liabilities. Like, man, I'm getting hot flashes. What are you talking about? And not only that, how big is my sample size? N equals 7 billion.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you do? And not only is it one of your old medications, that new one where it's not even really a medication, it's a new technology, mRNA technology, the future of big pharma. Yeah. What if you could run a global thing on it and you could just learn how the technology, fuck the whole RNA, it doesn't matter. The actual technology, the insertion mechanism for decades that's in the future, it will be X, Y, or Z. The actual insertion mechanism that I get to and it's not going to cost you. We're going to pay you, guaranteed. We're going to buy this many doses. You're shielded from liability. N equals 7 billion. Man, I don't know how much better this could get.
And T equals 6 months.
Yeah, and how much better?
Not 10 years.
How much better could this get? Fuck it.
Right.
It's mandated. No one has a choice.
Yeah.
But this is all reliant. So I know you're jizzing in your pants now. This is all reliant on an EU way. Well, so what's the problem with that? Well, the thing is like there might be these generic medications that have been studied for decades, like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. And if those legally are proven to work, this whole wet dream I just kind of gave you on a platter, we're going to get rid of it. And it's going to be back to, I'm a corporation. Yeah. I'm going to bend some rules. I'm going to press some palms. I'm going to slip a little money to, I don't know, just 5 CEOs at 5 big tech companies, tell them to squash everything, label it as misinformation. Yeah, I'm getting my nut. And that's just what it is. And it's just, that's what we have set. Don't get mad when the dog goes after the steak. Don't leave the steak out, dipshit. It's like billionaires who are like, yeah, I went through loopholes. Why didn't you change them when you were a senator? Like, so that's my logic is like, we've set up this like one little funnel where what other outcome would there be? You have these hyper alpha males that have risen to the top of this corporate global structure who are just gunning for that. They're trying to increase their profit margins by 4% so they can get a raise. And then you just put this gem out there. You go, we'll pay you. T equals 6 months, N equals 7 billions. We're going to mandate everyone, guaranteed profits. We're going to buy them. Hey, and boosters, we'll throw that in there too as a signing bonus. And nothing bad's going to happen to you. And this could go on in perpetuity. And no one else can provide it. And by the way, it's a pandemic, and we're going to mandate the world to take it.
Yeah.
But
and we're gonna clear everybody who ever touches these things and not give them any responsibility, liability. And that always, this the complete absence of any product liability always produces the best and safest products, doesn't it? I mean, just imagine our cars. How much safer would they be if we just gave a complete liability shield to every automobile manufacturer in the country? I mean, I can't imagine. Just they would be so safe, wouldn't they? I mean, it just stands to reason. If you take away the consequence of a bad product from the manufacturer, you're always going to get a better product, right? I mean, it just stands to reason. Am I wrong here?
Yeah. I mean, what two Boeing Maxes went down, and those were halted. What was it? The Galaxy phones were exploding. You couldn't take them on planes anymore. No matter how low the risk was of your phone exploding, you just couldn't take them on planes anymore.
So the Boeing Max was that was with the FAA had turned over their safety inspections and their vetting process to Boeing. So that's a great template for. I mean, FDA had already done that a long time ago with vaccines, but that's essentially the FDA following the example of the CDC, or the FAA following the example of the CDC and the FDA, and basically becoming a captured organization. So that's what we wrought in that case.
So not only is that whole thing dangled out there, that whole "we'll pay you, you're shielded, N equals 7, blah blah blah," the whole thing I went on, that's out there, and then we're also saying, but there's this pesky thing called ivermectin, and if that gets out there, you won't be able to have this. And then you're just leaving it and going, well, I'm going to skedaddle. It's like saying, like, hey, I know that your wife's in the hospital and you need money, and I can't legally give you money, but like, I'm just going to leave my suitcase of gold bars here. I'm going to skedaddle. I hope you don't take my suitcase.
Yeah.
So we're putting this thing up there, and we're going, well, I hope these corporations that have the means to do whatever they want. Well, I hope you guys don't do something like suppress ivermectin, which is pretty easy when all of the social media is consolidated in 5 corporations, which, here's the real kicker. And during a pandemic, when there is no town square, we can only communicate through here. If you guys suppress ivermectin, you can have this thing. But if not, we're just going to go back to the normal, the 15-year trial where you can't really make a whole lot of money. Anyway, I hope you do the right thing.
Yeah. And on an ivermectin's like 5 cents a tablet ordinarily before the pandemic, but there's people just making a killing off ivermectin now. I mean, it's a very profitable industry at present, even if it is out of patent.
You can tell when I start to get excited on my pale Irish skin. You can see how red my face gets when I start screaming about vaccines. I mean, we've hit on everything. We've touched on vaccines, the moon landing, aliens, nuclear weepons. Like, my heart rate.
This has been a good talk.
I need to lay down after this. Like, you can't bring out everything I like at once. It's too much. But
well, let's try this one. So how about the homogenization of the immune systems of 7 billion people, and to create one immunological template for anybody to shoot a nice big immunological missile at, and create a one-stop shop for Bill Gates' ideal depopulation efforts.
Yeah. What happens when we put hey, let's just take everyone in the United States and we're just going to put them in one big apartment block.
Yeah.
Well, now you only need to set fire to one.
Yeah. That's the concern that I have. And it wasn't really as crystallized as when Dr. McCullough had spoke about it. Was, this is the reason that the Delta virus became 99.9% prevalent in the United States, was because basically the virus had just one immune system with a few 100 million copies of it to look at, and said, oh, okay, well, we can really refine our efforts here on this one immune system. not 100 million different ones, and then we can come up with, so the next one, who knows what's going to happen. So it just doesn't stand to reason that you would do this to your, your critical resources, your critical people, and your critical industries, unless there's another reason behind that, because the vaccines don't prevent the contraction of the disease nor its transmission. They actually now, make one death more likely. And if we're following the lead of Israel, if we're following the lead of the UK, they just came out with a study in I believe it was in the Examiner. They looked at the National Health Service data, and and this is going to be the next headline. The unvaccinated are 32 times more likely to die than the 2-jab vaccinated, says National Health Service England. And the way they came at this was they drew the line at 21 days and said, we didn't count any of these statistics until 21 days after the jabs, 1 or 2. And when you look at the time of death after the COVID vaccinations, over 90% of the deaths occur prior to from vaccination occur prior to day 21. So they missed the massive spike in deaths, and they came down when all those deaths were done. And now they're coming back and saying, oh yeah, the unvaccinated 32 more times likely to die from COVID than the twice jab. So again, it's just, as I call it, Mark Twain, he may have been attributed this, but lies, damn lies, and statistics is the tale we're telling now.
Or it's easier to, it's easier to fool a man than to convince he's been fooled.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so, and to me, that's kind of like the $1 trillion question is, I tend to, as someone that outwardly loves conspiracies, and I have to reel myself in, and I'm like, were there aliens on the moon, or is it just, were we just, going balls to the wall with the Soviets and we want our propaganda win? I kind of think it's the latter, as much as I'd love for it to be the aliens, right? Are there really flying saucers out at Area 51, or is that just where we've been out there with EG&G and Lockheed doing classified shit since the 50s? Probably the latter. But that being said, I look at this, and what is the most likely answer? It's probably money. It's probably money.
Oh yeah.
But my mind also can't help. I can't completely rule out where I'm like, something's not making. Normally, when we just go for money, we just use the military industrial complex. We just need a new war. We need a lot of people. We never do something that directly damages ourselves, which, unless, of course, this is the act by a foreign power and they are trying to demolish the United States from within, which I wouldn't put beyond. I know they would. I'm not sure if they're capable. China, right? I'm sure we would probably do to them. Or is it some supranational power? Is it some ultimate power coup never before seen in human history? Or is it depopulation, which, there are a lot of people, and I'm not for it. But at the same time, you look at these guys and they control the vast majority of the resources, and maybe they're going, there's a bit too many of these pesky people around. How else would you do it? How the fuck else?
It just seems like a money plus kind of a circumstance. The market caps for all three, Moderna, Pfizer, and J&J, have just exploded under these things, and hundreds of billions of dollars increases in their market caps, and so there's that incentive, and then there's the incentive of control, and it's just you're looking at basically the textbook definition of fascism, where we've leveraged both government and corporations to overtake the will of the people and the liberties of the individuals. And so that's kind of the road we're marching down, and it's making a lot of very few individuals very rich, and it's also empowering what I call the petty potentates to basically exert their will on the governed. So in the great state of Texas, we're hopeful that our governor, our attorney general, is going to step in and try and right the wrongs that have occurred. We're always hoping, waiting for Superman, kind of as the book a decade ago would say, that people are always waiting for Superman to show up. Superman's not showing up on this one, folks.
No.
So
you gotta rip your own shirt open and find the S. Yeah.
And this has to be all of our individual
Yeah.
lines in the sand. We have to reach out to our sheriffs, our local county administrators, and basically our local sheriffs are the most powerful law enforcement officials in the country, and we need to support them and help them and lift them up, and make sure that they're fully enabled to do what they need to do to right the wrongs that are happening here. But individually, we all have to draw our line in the sand and say this is no mas. We're not going to go any further on this, and that's the only way we're going to affect change.
Because there will be no future line in the sand. This
Right.
is
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is if you need passports, if you need digital passports to go anywhere and do anything, they now control every aspect of your life, your food, your water, your ability to pay utilities, and whatever they're putting in your body. And once they've laid the groundwork for you need the first shot, the second shot, then they can say, well, if you don't have the booster, you are now unvaccinated, your passport doesn't work. If you don't have the 19th booster, and then what starts going into the boosters? You have no idea. Are they trying to dumb
No
you
idea.
down? Are they trying to cancer you down? Are they trying to give you brain fog so you're not sufficiently able to put together a power faction to overthrow a coup? What did the Soviets do with active measures? You take your most efficient operators and send them overseas to set up the programs in the US. Then you call them back and you shoot them in the back of the head because those are the people who are also most able to overthrow you because they've proven themselves. So
Right.
that's what you
Exactly.
do. You take down the next most powerful person. That's where it goes. If you give them if you go, fine, I'll get 2 shots for a passport. Then you go, fine, I'll get the booster. And it goes on forever. And then you have no idea what's going into it, and it doesn't matter anymore because now it's been 30 years and the norm is there that everyone goes, oh no, you just have to get your booster if you want to go to the park, and there's no one alive left to fight it. This
Yeah.
is the only
Yeah.
line in the sand, right? There's a bunch of hyperbole. We're always pearl clutching and we're like, this is the last election. And we've been doing that for 250 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
trying
And
to
so
control.
what's the social contract? You're weighing your job against, okay, this vaccine. So what are you getting? Are you getting 3 months of employment? Are you getting 6 months of employment? Are you getting, a year of employment? Say, okay, then now you're unvaccinated because you only have 5 shots. So you have to go get the 6th one, or we're gonna fire you again. So we're gonna go through this little fire drill again. So it's just and you can't, and for these, you can't even get a list of the ingredients from the people who are forcing you to take these things.
Yeah.
You can't from the physician. You don't know. I mean, the Pfizer withheld 20% of the ingredients on their community application. You can't get the EUA ingredients. You have no idea what's in these things, but you're supposed to take them to be the good American citizen. And it's just absolutely insanity. And I mean, there's nothing remotely regarding science that even backs this up.
And again, that temptation of the privately held corporation with a bottom line. Imagine if not only you have to take this, imagine if, hey, they have to take your drug to participate in society. Imagine if you had to subscribe to my podcast to be able to use the internet. Do you think I'd be a little tempted? Do you think I'd be a little tempted to push that legislation? Be like, hey, you want to check your email? Watch my podcast. Hey, you want to order something from Amazon? That's fine. You got to subscribe to my podcast because I'm making $100 million a month on my. You think there's a little temptation? Yeah, there's a little temptation, and I know we've come up on an hour, but I kind of do want to circle back to just one last thing, and I'd love to do another podcast with you, man, sometime. But
I'm here.
Fuck yeah. What I do want to point out, and I think it's we touched on it a little bit, and I've kind of been fleshing this out more and more. It's just an idea. I think there's something even bigger with not just the profit of the vaccine. It's the mRNA vaccine technology. This is the future of vaccines. This is the future. It's like the invention of the needle. Sure, you'd be making money off whatever 1918 vaccine we're using, but you'd be going, this is bigger than the 19. This is the needle. From now on, for the next 100 years, we're going to be using the needle. The actual mRNA delivery system, this vaccine, it's not an across the board bad thing. It is the next era of biomedical technology. The idea of them being able to use this and get an N sample size of 7, to me, I don't look at the sample size that they're attracted to for the COVID vaccine, because COVID will be on eventually. I think they're getting priceless data on what happens with this delivery vehicle. So in 10 years, it might not even be something like a pandemic. It might just be your new tetanus shot. They put it in an mRNA thing. Maybe it's more has greater affinity for your, or whatever. You got to go get your insulin shot or whatever, or you go to the hospital. Maybe they'll use mRNA. Maybe the morphine gets in quick. It might just be the new norm, no different than, using sterile wipes or something, right? It might be the thing where they're trying to get the actual delivery technology, which is in itself a neutral thing. It's just like 9.81 meters per second squared. It's just a neutral thing. I think that is where the money is in. They don't care about the code. That's whatever. And then sure, there's, aligning factions of, oh, we can use this for power like Australia. But I think the actual delivery mechanism, they would normally have to spend billions and tens of billions of dollars on, and they would pave the way for it. And then it would become the new thing that is just used outright for centuries or decades. I think this is where the money thing is they're getting, whether it's COVID or Ebola or the sniffles or erectile dysfunction or insulin or Zika, whatever it is. I think what penicillin, you just go in, I don't know, you're whatever. I think what it is the actual mRNA delivery mechanism. I think that they're getting 7 billion people worth of data. They're finding out all the adverse reactions to it. They're shielded. Sure, they're making money, but even this money buying doses, that pales in comparison to the free R&D. Imagine if there's a U.S. government funded rover to Mars and it's billions of dollars. Man, imagine if Elon Musk could get them to just like, I don't know, bring like 3 samples of steel on it just so he could be like, for my Mars starship, can I just get a little feedback? Because you guys are going anyway. Can I just, and think of how expensive and how primo and rare that real estate is. A rover going to Mars, it's not going to burn up. Imagine if Elon was like, hey, do you think I could just, as a private businessman, just cut out $100 billion of my R&D? Do you think I could just put in, hey, if you're already driving New York, can I give you this piece of mail to go give to my mom? Because, UPS is going to charge me $30. You're going anyway. That's what I think it is it's the mRNA delivery technology. They just want to see how it works, whether they mandate it in humans or they mandate it in dogs. I think that's what it is they're just,
well, this goes back to Fauci's, his big push for the universal flu vaccine, because the flu was always present. People are always going to take the shot. They wanted a new platform, the human 2.0 kind of a thing approach to be able to do this, use some disruptive force to force everyone to take this new flu vaccine technology. They just found a different pathogen. They found SARS-CoV-2, the perfect pathogen to be able to do this. And I do agree with the premise that this is just this is a way to carve out this technology for future use. It would just be probably more widely adopted if it wasn't using a toxic pathogenic protein that's killing a lot of people. Just a really poor choice on the arrow they put in this little cassette when they designed this thing.
But I think that's part of it, though. If they just said this is what injections are going to be from now on, your N number is only so big. It's people that are going, I don't really want that. But imagine you make it a pandemic, just dangerous enough that you have bodies, not enough that you actually disrupt this whole money-making machine we got going called society. Just scary enough that you mandate everyone to take it. I just want to see how it reacts on everyone. Can I just get your feedback, everybody? It's why is a commercial so expensive during the Super Bowl? Because your end size is so much bigger where you go, hey, we've got this new ad. We got this new type of ad for Coca-Cola. Let's see how many people are going to immediately go to our website after. This is worth more than all the ads we're going to run all year. And imagine if you could mandate everyone to watch TV on that day, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you look at the fact that Pfizer has admitted that there's only a very small portion of the lot sizes that actually coincide with the licensed Comirnaty product. There's 7 specific lots that were produced that were similar to the licensed BLA licensed product, the Comirnaty. Then that there's a wide range of other licensed or other EUA vaccine lots that were manufactured under varying specifications, under varying loads of the nanolipid particles, quantities and whatnot, and maybe even some that had barely detectable or even none. And so that explains the wide spectrum of responses that people have gotten to I got it. Nothing happened to me. I was fine. You take your shot, or my arm was a little sore, or over to the, I couldn't move my arm for a week, or I had massive headaches. And so this entire spectrum of responses, the only way the entire spectrum of responses happens in a population if there's an entire spectrum of inputs. And so in that situation, Comirnaty and Pfizer have admitted that through their Dear Healthcare Practitioner letter to the practitioners, and saying, well, there are a limited number of lots. Here they are, 7, that are actually lined up with our licensed product. They're not interchangeable. And so don't believe the BS on the FDA fact sheet. They're not interchangeable at all. There's only 7 of them are like the licensed product. So now this makes sense. Now we say, okay. So the reason some people had no problems and these other people dropped dead is because there's this wide range of stuff. As you say, they're nailing this technology. They're trying to get this technology right. And so they're doing massive experiments on the entire population to figure out, how do we do this without killing a lot of people? Okay, we killed 17,000, no big deal. We permanently disabled 26,000, no big deal. It's all in the interest of science and money. And so we've finally refined it under this design. And it only took, a million people getting really, really hurt to get to that point. But we're done. Hey, we're in good shape. And I agree with the premise. It was an effort to refine this platform, this new platform that basically allow you to insert any genomic code into that product and do whatever end you want to achieve, whatever end you want to after that.
Yeah, and in the future, I mean, then you just start rebranding all the old stuff, like a tetanus shot or whatever, and it's probably going to be a very effective and useful technology. But I mean, no different than what did the Nazis do when they realized, hey, we have all these Jews that we're going to burn anyway. What do? Put them in ice baths. Why? Because sometimes the Luftwaffe soldiers go down in water. We got to figure out how to reverse hypothermia. What about, put them in pressure chambers and drastically drop the pressure and see what happens? Or let's use these different weapons. Or, the great book called Blitzed by Norman Ohler, all about the drugs in the Third Reich. I mean, what's one thing they did? They take Jews they put different shoes on them, and it was the boots that they were going to be giving to the Wehrmacht soldiers, and they would actually make a track with different percentages of substrate. It'd be rubber, pavement, asphalt, pebbles, whatever, and in the way only the Nazis can, and the exact percentages of the track was relative to the exact percentages of land they would be crossing in Europe. So they wanted to find out how they would put 2 different shoes on each Jew, 2 different sizes, and they'd give them drugs to make them walk 80 miles in a day, get the most out of them. We're going to kill them anyway. Let's get all this R&D out of the way. All this pesky R&D, it costs money and everything. Well, what if we already have death camps? Let's just go for it. Why assemble it in America? Just have it made in a sweatshop in China. Who cares? Comes back here, save all that money. That's what they're doing. And you got to go on all the continents. You got to get every person with every different genetic disposition, whether you're from South Korea or Madagascar or Venezuela or Alaska or wherever. Get them all, get all the different genomes and see how they respond to this. That's what it is. They're just, it's the ultimate cutting of corners.
It is.
They're just saving the most possible amount of money.
Yeah, and they've been given access to the entire human population, and it's like, hey, for free. And actually, there's some profit. There's some really good profit in the whole thing. So it's
but don't mention that. And so everything we're saying, right? And I know we'll wrap this up. We've gotten 15 minutes over, but everything we're saying, right? Well, people want to get tricked by all of this, or just listen to other discussions and and figure it out for your own. Now, all the censorship must make sense to you, the listener, because everything we're saying, we're just having this open discourse. Well, you can't have any of this when we're poking holes through this like a machine gun into Swiss cheese. You can't have people having access to all of this open discussion. So anytime you just have 2 dudes who are just having a fairly intelligent conversation about things, well, that really made me think. Well, we can't put that up on YouTube. ban hammer. You can't have that. So when people go onto YouTube and they go, I've looked for other interviews, no one else are raising these questions. Well, everyone's raising these questions, but they're hammering it all down. And then you go online and it appears that no one is raising these questions. So you go, no one else is fleeing. So sure, I'll stay in the
must be crazy.
I'll stay in the burning building because no one else is running out of the burning building. And then you do find it, and you know what? You're on Rumble and BitChute. Oh, you're probably banned because you're a white supremacist. And it's like, no, I was banned. I was banned for talking about the COVID vaccine. With who? The inventor of the COVID vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Why were you banned? For medical misinformation. I don't. The mental gymnastics are impressive. Like
They are.
It's hard to be angry when part of me is like, you have to respect your enemy, and man, I respect the psychological operations of this entire thing. Like, hats off to Pfizer and the CIA and whoever the hell's pulling this off. You
Just
guys
super effective.
The Nazis were demons, but man, they had a very efficient railway system. I mean, call it what it is, but the rape of Nanking was horrible, but man, they knew how to have troop morale. Like, it's horrible, but these guys are demons. But
the beheading contests were pretty epic.
No, the fire bombings of Dresden weren't too great. That being said, man, we had some great logistics in there. So what they're doing is evil, but I mean, at the very bare naked face of science, I mean, your psyops are impressive. Goebbels would blush, but yeah, man. So I don't know if this podcast is what you thought it was, but this is why I love my podcast, is because I have no idea where it's going to go at all.
It's been a great conversation, Tommy. It really has.
Man. You just light it and let it run. You just take the fins off the missile and you're like, well, it might go east, it might go west. We don't know. So,
well, thank you for allowing me to shine a light on this not often heard or spoken of corner of the United States. It's actually kind of smack dab in the middle, and there's a lot of people who are working tirelessly to ensure the safety and security of the United States is robust and respected. And we just are hopeful that your message will reach the right ears and we'll get some assistance to our cause.
I tend to think that as long as we all kind of work and do whatever little thing I'm not Joe Rogan. I don't have 10 million people listening. I think as long as we all do like a little bit, and maybe I'm a doe-eyed optimist, I really do think it will be all right. Because as fucked as things are right now, man, it's not 1944. You and I aren't in a troop transport going up to Omaha Beach. 10 seconds. Like, no, we just have to do a podcast and maybe lose some friends on Facebook. Like, our burden is very tiny. So,
well, you're right. I mean, you have to keep your mind pointing in the right direction. And there's a certain collective creation that happens there, and the more you spend in the negative space versus a positive space, it affects your reality. So
yeah, you're
exactly right.
Yeah, you start. There's a reason why demoralization campaigns are so important in war. Is you have to break their spirit. You can't let them know that they're not alone. And so
exactly,
that's what I'm doing and who knows, I might just have a death wish, whether I'm interviewing CIA veterans right after the election, talking about election meddling, or whether I'm interviewing Robert Malone, or whether I'm in touch with the coroner of Epstein. Yeah, any day now, I'm fully aware that like a hellfire missile.
Those aren't bad hills to die on,
No.
Today's a beautiful day, right?
I'm very at peace with it. I don't know how they're going to Michael Hastings me. Is my car going to hit a tree? Is it going to be a car? It's a bingo card. How's Tommy going to die? I don't know. Are they going to make an example of me and make sure my head explodes while the podcast is live? Or I don't know.
That'd be more effective, I think.
It depends.
To dissuade the message.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I've interviewed Ken Albeck, the head of the Soviet Union bioweapons program. Maybe they'll hit me up with anthrax for irony points. I don't know.
Or polonium-210. Whack from the umbrella. Yeah, that's more in my lane.
Yeah, it's become a right. Yeah, that KGB style. It's become of a running joke between me and some friends. Like, it started as just like I pinged on a server somewhere, and now 600 I've had on guys from Delta Force, CIA Special Activities Division, Sandia, bioweapons experts, anthrax experts, getting to a point where it's like I actually got an email. I got a response from the director of the NSA last year, and he said no, thank you. But I did get a response from General Nakasone. I like to imagine that it's gone from me pinging on a server to maybe like a file to maybe like a case officer. So I like to imagine like once a week, some guys get together in like I don't know, some boardroom somewhere at Fort Meade. And they're like, all right, what's this asshole doing this week? And they have me and they're like, we don't need to kill him yet. And I like to
the
imagine
Tommy Carrigan sit rep, right?
Yeah, I like to imagine where I'm not important enough yet, right? I'm not JFK. They don't need to dome me just yet. But I like to imagine they're kind of, and then I also have this like fanciful imagination of where maybe I'm kind of winning some of them over. Like they're forced to look over my podcasts. And they're like, man, this isn't half bad. Like, and maybe they got bingo charts. They're like, who the fuck do you think he's going to interview? Shit, he had a guy that walked on the moon and he said they were there. Like, well, there goes that whole charade. So,
oh man.
Yeah. So and now they're looking at me and they're like, all right, listen, he got the B2 Spirit guy. He got the nuclear submarine guy. He got the nuclear silos guy. Now he's got somebody at Pantex. And they're going, all right.
He's covered all the bases. We are screwed.
Yeah, I order Domino's every Friday night. That's my cheat day. And I imagine one time the guy delivering my pizza isn't going to be some fat, out of shape guy. He's going to be a guy that looks an awful lot like he could be a Delta Force operator. And he's going to say, here's your breadsticks, motherfucker. And you know what? I don't give a shit, because what a fucking way to go.
He's got when he's handing the pizza box and he's got the skull and crossbones on the fingers there. It's a few marks there.
Have you seen?
You're sure that's your number there? Your number's been called.
Yeah,
it's not on the receipt either.
No. I'm gonna be like, this isn't Domino's. Yeah, I'm gonna know something's up right away, because I'm gonna be like, you don't have the ranch dress, and I'm gonna fucking do like a Matrix move as he pulls out the gun, and I'm gonna be like, my fat ass saved me.
Where are my cinnamon twists?
I'll notice. I'll be he's handing me the bag, and I'm like, this is lighter than normal. I reach for my gun, and he reaches for his, and it's just this last second. But the thing is because I've kind of become friends with some like Delta Force veterans, I've asked them and be like, hey, if you guys ever just get some like back channel request to kill me, I'm like, can you just give me a heads up so I can like say bye to my parents? I know I'm not running from it. I have no illusions about me fighting the deep state. But like, if you guys just get however it works, some Bitcoin transaction, and take, because these are the guys that they would
just
go
honor
to.
me. Let me get one shot off before you put.
I'm like, can you guys just at least make up a story and say he put up a good fight? Like the reality is like I'll die crying, but like at least just say it was badass. Like maybe punch yourself and say he got in a good haymaker. Don't just dome me as I'm bawling in a fetal position, saying I don't want to be a podcaster anymore. But
that would be very disrespectful.
Yeah, please drop my body at like the gates to Langley and be like, he made a beeline run for the director, and we had to take him out. At least like throw my shoes on like the same runway where Air Force One is, and be like, he was going for POTUS. He was. Please just make me seem like less of a fat fucking loser than I really. That's part of the thing, man. Is I think the assassins are going to show up, and they're going to go, you're really in this tiny apartment? Like your studio is actually just half your room, cordoned off with moving blankets hanging from the ceiling. And I'm gonna go, yeah. They're gonna be going, I can't fucking shoot this kid. They're gonna be like, listen, man, here's a passport. Go to Mexico City. Just don't.
They're gonna turn into Jason Bourne and just go and just leave, right?
Yeah, they're just literally gonna be.
We can't do this anymore.
Yeah, it's gonna be like that last. Yeah, that right before he jumps into the river, he's like, "Do you even know me?" He's gonna show up here, and I'm gonna.
Do you even know why you're doing this?
I'm gonna be like, "Have you even liked, shared, and subscribed?" They're gonna be like, "What?" They're gonna be like, I'm gonna be like, are you former Delta? I've interviewed former Delta. They'll be like, you're some conspiracy theorist. I'm like, what do you want? Moon landing? You've interviewed Charlie Duke. I'll be like, what a 4 men alive? Bullshit. I'll be like, episode 216. Come on in. They're like, I can't find it on YouTube because I got banned by the same deep state you're working. Start reverse psychology. Next thing you know, they're crying and they're like, I never wanted to be an assassin. And yeah, it's that's how it goes, man.
That's exactly how it will go. You know it.
And it's a win-win.
The roof.
It's a win-win no matter what. It's gonna be like Jason Bourne, where they're doing the test and they're in the basement. They're like, "What did he do?" They're like, "It doesn't matter, just shoot him." But it's gonna be very clearly me as I'm just screaming with the burlap sack. They're gonna be like, "Is that Tommy from Tommy's podcast?"
Shut up and pull the trigger.
Shut up and pull the fucking trigger. Someone's gonna be like, "I hate that motherfucker." He has no idea when to end the podcast. They're like, Jesus, that wasn't
episode
even
187. Really,
187.
I just remember that.
Fuck that guy. He said Delta Force was cooler than the Navy SEALs. That's what it's gonna be. But
that's exactly what it's gonna be.
No, I have this whole wild imagination of like it starts as them like monitoring me, but it escalates to like where it gets kicked up the chain of command. But then maybe someone in like the Joint Chiefs actually likes it. So there's this whole like secretive battle between like the CIA is trying to ice me, and they're like someone's helping him.
Like a whole episode of 24.
Yeah,
I mean, it really does.
They're like the CIA is like he's got to have an inside man because he's never where we are when we kill him. And the NSA is like, I fucking it's like I love this guy's podcast. It's the only way I can deal with my wife's bitching is when I have one AirPod in and I'm listening to Tommy's podcast. Tommy's podcast is saving my marriage. Well.
Yeah, and it just might. You never know. I mean, for a lot of guys, it just might. Yeah, just yes, ma'am. Yes, I know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Hold on, we'll wrap this up. I'll tell you something off the camera. Hold on, I'll wrap this one up. Mr. Mike Ford, thank you very much for coming on here. I'll tell you. Hold on.